Hello, CIS27. Welcome to week 12, and we are almost at the end of the semester. We will have a few important things that we have to address this week and next week in preparation for our certifications and the overall knowledge and security. So in week 12, we are going to address one lab. You are going to work on the lab that's going to be managing certificates using PowerShell. There is a quiz, and you can attempt the practice or the quiz review game by doing the extra credit. In that, you can win a gift card and also earn 20 points extra credit. Now, if you have time, you can begin lab 13. Which is on patch management, but that's not going to be due until the following Sunday. So it's not going to be due until the end of week 13. Also, I wanted to bring your attention to a couple of other areas outside of our module this week, as I've written in your email and announcement. I have opened a practical final. This is different than your final exam. This portion is designed to prepare you for Security Plus certifications. There are two modes that you are accessing. The first one is the learning mode, and all of this is due on June 6th, so you do have quite a bit of time to go through the learning mode and the assessment mode. So I recommend that you complete the learning mode, and you can do it as often as you want. You can start it all over. You can click through and learn each of the question answer. You can look for the explanation in each question. So you can complete the learning mode first. Once you get 100% in the learning mode, then you can go to the second task, which is the practical final for security assessment. This assessment mode simulates how the questions would be on the regular certification exam. You will be given 90 minutes for 90 questions. There will not be explanation or answers, of course. So you want to be able to attempt this, and your goal is to be able to earn 80% or higher on the assessment part. Now, keep in mind that this is weighted to your grade, so you can restart it all over again and get a higher score if you wish. However, this is designed to simulate the exam so you can actually see your performance. And if you're unhappy with your score, you can restart it. But as you restart it, keep in mind that it doesn't keep all your responses that you have saved. And when you finish with each of the assessment, you can look at your report to see how well you've done, which area you need improvement on, and so that way you can go back to the learning mode or go back to the course material and review. Now, in the previous task in the learning mode, I have included some information about the difference between the 501 and the 601 certification. The 501 is going to expire. It's going to be retired on July 31st, 2021. The 601 is already available. Now, if you look at the domains for the two, there's some slight differences. They have combined some of the areas and put it in different domains. The 601 will address more on compliance and operations and response to incidents, where the 501 would have some major area in encryption and other things. Now, it doesn't mean that the 601 doesn't have encryption. It's just included in a different domain. And the weighted for the domains are different. So if you click this link right here, it actually shows you the details on the two exams and how they are different. Okay? So if you're preparing to take Security Plus certification, which I highly recommend, you should take a look at the difference in the type, and also the 501 will be retired at the end of July. Now, keep in mind that even though Security Plus is highly demanded for the security job, however, you want to go into it with preparation, and so that way you know that you will be able to complete and be able to pass and not waste money. One of the things that I recommend is to register for student membership account, and you can find CompTIA membership information in the first module of our Canvas course. I included the information there. Once you register for the account, you will be able to receive discount for certifications with CompTIA, and I highly recommend taking some of the Pluses certification with CompTIA if you are beginning your career in IT. It will give you some leverage, especially when you're looking for entry-level jobs. Okay? So again, the practical final is really geared to prepare you for the certifications, and I'm hoping that it's going to help you understand where you stand and what kind of areas you need to improve for preparation for the certification itself. So going back to the module, in this part, I'm going to talk about the labs. And in this week lab, we are going to first address the Managing Certificate lab, Unit 12 lab. So in this lab, we are going to use server, and that's going to be Windows Server. So you're simply going to click the Practice Lab link, and it's going to open up your Practice Lab. Then in the Practice Lab, review the requirements, so that way you would know which virtual machines that you need. So you need the BDC01, the DM01, and the Win10. And the BDC01 should automatically start. You can also turn on the DM01 and also the Win10. After you had initialized your virtual machine, make sure that you look at the instructions where it tells you which virtual machine to use. Otherwise, you're going to get confused. So in Managing Certificate, here it talks about using certificate template and using Enterprise Certification Authority. And CA is a role that is added to the server systems. And this is in Windows environment, you can use the role to be able to manage your certificate. And it ties with your Active Directory, which ties to containers, groups, users, policies, and so on. So what we want to do in the first task is we are going to add Active Directory certificate services, and this certificate is going to tie to web enrollment services. As you can see that many of the web services like web app, accessing websites, even authentications for secure website would require some certificate. So we can use a certificate to really manage some of the areas in authentication in our services. And importantly, last week we talked about encryption, and certificate will also be tied with encryption as well. So this is why I think it's really important to really understand the procedure on how to set up certificate and certificate authority. So in the first step, it's going to show you to use your Server 2016, the DM01. So over here, you got to make sure that you use that virtual machine. And in that, what you see is you are going to use the Windows PowerShell, and that's located under Server Manager, Dashboard, and Tools. Now, PowerShell comes equipped with Server 2016, and even from the standard level all the way through Enterprise. In Windows 10, PowerShell comes ready, but if you're using an older server like Server 2012 or something older, you have to bring in PowerShell and adapt it for a specific license, for a specific edition of the server operating system that you use that's legacy. So now in this area, after you have opened up your PowerShell, and keep in mind that it's under Tools, okay? So in your virtual machines, once you have that open, you would then go to open up your PowerShell. And the important things that you wanted to think about when you use PowerShell is syntax, like how you type specific things, is very important. So if you use the wrong syntax, it's not going to understand your command. So the way that it works is you are going to issue a command for the shell, similar to command prompt, but it uses different command. So in this case, what we're doing here is we're adding the feature, the Windows feature, and it's going to be for CA, Certificate Authority, and it's going to be for web enrollment, and we are going to enable management tool. Okay. Now, when you find administrator positions, especially Windows administrator positions, usually you would see PowerShell requirement, or in the area of security and the overall server administration, you would also see certificate authority being incorporated. And CA here is going to pertain to our Windows environment. And so once that's ready, it would tell you that it's successful by adding the features, and there's no need to restart. And then you're going to get the result that it shows the services. Then after that, you are going to install CA. So what you're doing is you are going to add a feature. Now, in Windows environment, you can actually use the add role wizard to be able to add CA without using PowerShell. But keep in mind that most organization, when you access server, you will likely have command prompt and no graphical user interface. Okay, so what you would see is that we can call up PowerShell and then be able to use PowerShell. And Shell is very useful in that you don't have to click 5 screens in order to do something. You can actually issue a line with the proper commands, and it's going to be able to execute it. So in this step, you are still going to use the server 2016, the same server that you started with, and you are going to install the role, which is the certificate authority. And so this is going to be enterprise root CA. So here, what you see in the screenshot is that once you issue this, what it's going to do is going to ask you to select A for yes to all, N for no, L is no to all, and S is to suspend. And so therefore we're going to type in A to be yes to all. So that way it's basically, it's going to interface and it's going to be performing that operation for the target, and it's going to choose yes to all. So that's more of like a toggle option using the command. Then after that, we are going to install the the certificate authority web enrollment. So here is, we are going to issue the install and for web enrollment. And then again, we are going to do yes to all. Okay. So after we confirm, we will continue in our PowerShell. And here, you notice here in step 3, it says that when you look, the installation of certificate authority web enrollment is successful, confirm at error ID of 0. So when you get 0 error, that means that we are successful. If you have other number that's indicated here, that means that we are unsuccessful. We have some error that we need to address. Okay? Like maybe there would be missing roles, or there are certain services that were not enabled, and so on. All right. After that, once we have installed, you would be able to see that in your dashboard under Tools, and you would see Certificate Authority. And within that, what we would have is Windows provided certificate template, and that would incorporate different areas of the certificate. As I mentioned before, certificate can be used in different areas. So for server system, what we can do is we can look at how we can use the template in order to address a certain need for our services. So here, once you complete your certificate authority installation with your web enrollment, then it asks you to take a screen capture showing that you did that. Then we are going to configure the auto enrollment. So using the template. So in the CA, what we are going to do is we are going to select the template and we are going to manage it. So you can right click it and then choose manage. And in the template, it's going to list it in the main on the right console. It's going to list the detail and then the purpose of it. So once you right click and you manage, it's going to open up the templates console in the specific. Okay. And here it tells you to scroll down to the template list, right click the user, then select duplicate template. So when you do that, what you would see is when you right click the user and duplicate the template, it's going to make a copy of that particular template for the user. Then here it shows you to look at the name. So it would show you the template display name, and then you can edit it. So then we can change up our duplicate template name. Click apply. After we select prompt user during enrollment option, so make sure that you select that step. And with this, as you can see that we can select the request handling, we can select it under signature and encryption, and we can select include symmetric algorithm allowed by the subject. So that would include the encryption, and it's going to allow private key to be exported. So that way we can export out our private key, and our private key is going to allow us to access. So mainly this is going to be able to use the template for user certificate to be able to help us with encryption, manage encryption. So in the security tab, it's going to have you check that authenticated user group is selected. Okay, so make sure that we have that. It should include that. And then under the permission, we want it to select auto enroll. And that's going to allow you to configure for auto enroll. And click apply, superseded templates. So what does this mean? When you go to a website and you wanted to register for an account, you can then access the process of self-enrollment. So with this certificate, that will allow you to be able to enroll to that particular website. And that's what we're doing here with the certificate authority template. And then also to be able to install the web enrollment services in our previous task. So once we have set up the superseded templates, we are going to click Add, and you would follow the step. You would select the user and then click OK, because in general, you would just have regular users that will be self-enroll. Even if they're in the super user group, they are still also nested under the users group. Then under the superseded template, the user template is now added, and then you're going to click Apply. So what here it tells you that certificate issued by this template superseded certificates issued by all templates added to this list. Add only those templates of whose certificates allow as permitted by certificate issued by this template. So what that means is when you're adding a new template like this, you want to include other template that this particular template superseded. That means that it's going to include all the other templates that's added to the list under that new template that you create. So you can group them and contain them under a new template. Instead of using them individually, you will be able to organize the other template and keep them together under another template. So it's a way that we can group them together. And then also here, we're just changing up some information, subject name, include email name, click OK. So here we just select the option. Now, if we select a user principal name, that will be given with the username, and then build from the Active Directory information. So it's going to pull the user information and the user's information. It can pull that in for Active Directory. So when you select this option, it's going to be able to look at the subject names and how it's going to be able to tie that with the certificate. Okay. Then we are going to set up for secure user certificate template. And so we are going to include that with it. And then we are going to set up the new template to issue. So now we are going to enable that template for issue. So it would say for authentication, for secure email, for encrypted file systems, and so on. So this particular template now would be applied to issue the certificate for authentication, email, encryption using EFS. Then for step 14, here is where it shows you how you added the certificate template, secure user. Now you will be able to tie policy with the template or with the certificate that you have added. So then you would go to your group policy management console, and then you would expand and under the domain, because now you have to look inside the domain that's under the forest, which is the overall enterprise. And then you're going to click on the organizational unit. So the way this is hierarchical working is the company is going to be at the top level, and then we would have the domain, and then under that we would have organizational unit. And OU, what we can use OU for, it could be region, it could be branch, it could be department, however the company would choose it to be. So in this case, we are going to use the ITOU, and that's going to help us organize the policy, the rules that will be applied for specific groups, or in our case, we are going to tie the certificate with the policy for certain groups. Okay, so group policy management console. Then we're going to make a new group policy object that's going to call certificate auto enrollment. And within that, it's going to contain the rules that would be applied to our newly created certificate, which is secure user. So then we would add the ITOU, and what we want to do is we are going to right click on certificate auto enrollment, and we're going to make it the edit like what is shown here. Okay, and then from there what we would do is we would go and we would configure its setting, go to its properties, and then after that we would configure how we would want to be able to enable that for the client auto enrollment. So for step 7, it wants you to select these options: renew expired certificate, update pending certificate, remove revoke certificate, update certificates that uses certificate templates, display user notification for expiring certificate in the user and the machine. So when you select these options, what do they really mean? That would allow us to be able to give out new certificate when the certificate is expired, update, right, as it state here, remove revoke certificate. So in the case I wanted to take away the certificate, I can do that. And then we can also change the template and display the user notifications. So here it shows you how you can enable the model, and then you can select the options, and then we can log and show the notifications. We can log and we can show certain percentage. So when we have about 10% left in the available certificate for the expiration, so it says log expiry events and show expiry notification when the percentage of the remaining certificate lifetime is 10%. So when it gets to the last 10% of the lifetime for the expiration date, it would then log and notify. Okay, and then you can also have it added to different stores, and then you can have it display user notifications. So you want to let the user know, warn the user. Okay. So once that's done, then you are going to go into the group policy management editor, and then this one, it shows you how you can use command prompt. And once you update a policy, once you create a policy or you modify a policy, edit the policy, you want to make sure that the update is get carried. So when you do GP update force, what this does is it's going to carry, it's going to apply immediately the policy to your domain. And if it's top down, if you made it at the top of the forest, it's going to trickle down to all the subdomain. But in our case, we actually made it in the organizational unit, so it's going to apply to the ITOU. And then after you issue that, you would do exit. So it should show you updating policy there. Then in the next task, we want to verify that the certificate is issued. Okay. So here, what we want to do is we are going to use it says you need to temporarily disable server auto login to be able to log on to lab devices using another account. So then because if you're on as the administrator, you might be able to access more than you should. Okay, so it tells you that on the control panel, please click Access Your Settings tab. Under the device server auto login, click Disable. So make sure that we do this. Okay, and then you can select Enable to have the convenience of being automatically logged in as administrator. So when you disable it, what you can do is you can log in as other user, but when you enable it, it automatically logs you in as administrator for convenience. But we don't really do that in real life. In real life, we would use another user to log in. So here it tells you to be able to configure that. So make sure that you complete step 1 before you proceed in task 3. Then here we're going to test it with Win 10. So in Windows 10, we are going to use lisa.scott and the password. So that's why we disable that option. So we would log in as other user. So we would log in as Lisa Scott. And then you would get a warning, close the warning. You would click Agree for license agreement. And then once you're in the desktop, so here it mentioned that there might be a slight delay as it would apply the policy. Okay. So here you should see some notification for the certificate as it applied that. Then in step 6, it says certificate enrollment before you begin page. So you would click the enrollment. So look for the notification, open it, and then you would begin your enrollment and click next. You would request certificate and it should show secure user certificate template. So we would select that because that was the one that we created earlier, and then you would click enroll. Then take a screenshot once you successfully enroll. In exercise 3, it's going to walk you through the key process for key recovery. So back to our server DMO1, you are going to go back to CA, Certificate Authority. And here you are going to create a certificate template again. And in this one, you are going to select Key Recovery Agent. As it's shown in the screenshot. Then for the key request certificate, what we would do is we would then open up our Microsoft Management Console. So you can click Start, Run, and you type in MMC, and you would click OK. So once you open up your Microsoft Management Console, you would then click Certificate, and you're going to add it to your console because your console, your Microsoft Management Console is blank. So we would then add the certificate to the console, and what that will do is it's going to let us manage some of the resources for the certificate. So then I would then click My User Account and then click Finish. Then in the console, we also need to add in, they call it snap-ins, but these are the tools that you would need. So we would then add the snap-in, which shows us a certificate for the current user. And when you right click the personal folder under that certificate, you would see all tasks, and then you can have a request for a new certificate. So what that does is, if our certificate works, we can have a user request for a new certificate, and that the certificate that we created using certification policy. So then for step 9, what it's going to do here, it's going to let you select the certificate enrollment policy, and then we are going to select key recovery agent. So one of the option and click enroll. So while we wait for that, we would click then finish. This is a security sensitive key, and it should show that enrollment is pending. That means that it will have to be approved manually as it is requested. Okay, and this is just for check and balance purposes. So, you know, it doesn't auto enroll. Then you are going to come back to the server. You are going to click the CA again, and you should see the pending requests. As Windows 10, as the other system, requested, then you should see that on the server side. So you can right click all tasks, and you can deny or issue, but in this case we are going to issue. And then you can open it to view. So in the certificate, you would see more the details. So here in the details, it shows you version, serial information, issuer, valid from, it should show expiration date, when is it available, when is it expiring, the signature hash, the signature algorithm for that certificate. So it shows you how to do that here, and they have you copy to file. So we can copy that to file, and then we can export it. Okay. So here, this shows you how you can set up the export with DAR. And then we would want to save it as admin KRA, and it's under C drive. So when we complete the wizard, we would click finish, and then it would then export your certificate. Then to restore it, we would then go to our Microsoft Management Console that we opened earlier, click under Personal, and then we can import that in. So if you export that as a file, you would then be able to use that file to recover, right, by importing it in. So then it would finish the import. So we would have to just locate the file, which is .cer for certificate under C. Okay, so we find the file, and then we would then restore. So back to the management console, we would then under the certificates folder. Here it tells you to look at the issue certificate for the administrator with the intended purpose for key recovery agent. So administrator automatically under that role would have the key recovery agent capability. And that's what it's saying there. Okay. So if you are part of that group, or if you are that user, then what you would have is you would be able to recover keys for the certificate. Then in the CA in task 4, it's going to have you archive the key. So under the CA, you are going to right click, right, your system, and you are going to go to properties, and then you are going to select the recovery agent tab, and you are going to click the radio button archive key, and then you can click add. Click OK. So once you archive the key, the key agent selection message box was done to display. You're going to click OK. Message will show like this. And then you would click OK again on the property sheet. Then it's going to update the certificate services. So it's going to stop and start because it needs to refresh the changes that you made. So here it's going to stop and then it's going to restart again. And what we want to do is we are going to look at the archive key. So now in task 5, you are going to create a new certificate enable for archiving. Then you come back to the server. Then you are going to click on the CA role, click on certificate template, and we're going to manage it. Just like what we've done before. But in this one, we are going to click the user again and select duplicate template, just like what we've done before. And then in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to make it EFS user. And that's for Windows encryption. So in the request handling in this one, different than the last, the exercise you've seen before is that we would select archive subject encryption private key. And that's going to allow us to archive the private key. And for step 6, the changing key archival property would show, and then you would have to make sure that it's only enabled for future certificate. You're going to click OK. Then back into the property sheets, we are going to click apply, and then we are going to open up subject tab. In the subject name, we are going to select include email name with subject and email name, just like what we've done in the prior exercise. And then select authenticated user, enroll, and click OK. So as you follow this step, you do see some similarity between the prior exercise and this exercise. But in this one, we are expanding on the CA, and we are going to look, we worked on archived. We're looking at, using keys and using private keys. So here, it's going to have you have a new template to issues. And then we are going to select EF user as we had set that up with the template. Take a screenshot. So that way we would make 2 templates. And then in exercise 4, similar to the prior exercise, we would then enroll the user using Windows 10. And in this case, we are going to use Paul Weston. Log in as Paul Weston. Then he should be able to receive, open up your Microsoft Management Console, add certificate snap-in, just like what you've done before with Lisa Scott. And then under the personal folder, you are going to request a new certificate. Okay, so we wanted to test it with Windows 10 after we configured that with the server. And then you are going to request the certificate from EF user and click enroll. And finish. So now in order to really test it, then we are going to see if Paul Weston can encrypt a folder. So here it's going to have you go into File Explorer, create a folder, create a text document called confidential memo. And then for the confidential memo, we just type in that using Notepad. Then we are going to right click the text file. You are going to go to Advanced, go to Properties, and then Advanced Attribute, which you check the Advanced option, and you are going to select Encrypt the content. So if it's successful, then that means it's effective. Then after that, it's going to give you this warning. It's going to say, oh, do you want to encrypt everything inside it? Or do you want to encrypt the file only? The folder or the file only. Okay. So once you select, and here it tells you that in that we would encrypt the parent folder, and then it's going to start the encryption. Then you're going to sign out back to the server, but in this case you're going to use DC01. You are going to go to Active Directory, use this in computer, under N America, and click under Operations. You are going to click Paul Weston, and you're going to delete the user. And it's going to confirm to see if you want to delete the user. You're going to click yes. So if we remove the user, let's say that Paul Weston leaves the company, his account gets deleted. We usually disable instead of deleting the user, but we want to test it. We wanted to see if we can actually recover his certificate. Okay, so here what you are going to do is you are going to create a new user, Paul Weston, have a password information entered as that user, click finish. Then you are going to go ahead and go into Win 10. You are going to log in as Paul Weston. So why did they delete the account and then recreate it? We wanted to see that after it's deleted and recreated, if it's able to access that certificate. So you would get a warning message. And so for Paul Weston, after he logs in, okay, then he's going to go into the folder, which is EFS folder under the C drive, right click confidential memo text file, and then click open. Okay. So ideally, at this point, if everything is done correctly, you should get a deny message, even though Paul Weston was previously given the certificate. As we delete the account, we recreate the account. Paul Weston account at this point doesn't have the certificate to unlock or decrypt the file. So now you can see that it should give you access deny. And then for exercise 5, you are going to manage the key recovery. So we're back to the other server, the MO1. You are going to open up your Microsoft Management Console that you had previously opened. And then under certificate, under current user node, under personal folder like before, then click certificate folder, and you would see, look at your key recovery agent. Okay. Then you're going to right click administrator, click all tasks. We're going to export out. And then you are going to go through the export wizard. You're going to choose export private key. We've done this earlier. And here we are going to use the personal information exchange, your PKCS number 12, which is also known as PKC12. So anyway, this is going to include, so verify that they include all certificates in the certification path, and you're going to click next. So follow the wizard. Make sure that you select that option. On the security page, you're going to type in the password and then click confirm. And then we are going to store it under admin KRA under the C drive. Then we're going to click finish and then complete the wizard. So after we export it from the .cer to .pfx, the administrator account would then need the PFX file to be able to recover the server. See the keys for the CA. So you would right click the certificate, click all tasks, then you are going to click import. So now we're going to import it back in. We're going to find the .pfx file from the admin KRA folder under the C drive. So you can browse to it, type in the path. And then you are going to click private key. So this key is going to be able to allow us to access the certificate. Okay. Then in the certificate store, we're going to select place all certificate following store. That will be under personal. And then complete the wizard. Finish. So back in the Microsoft console, we would then look at your, here, we would then look at the certificate. Okay. And we should be able to see the restore, the requester for, which is Paul Weston, like what you've seen what Lisa's got. So now in task 2, it shows you how you can use command prompt. And now we're going to go to the other server, DMO1. Open up command prompt as an admin, so run as admin. And then we are going to use the utility for the certificate. We're going to get key for Weston. Okay. So it should show complete successfully. Then we are going to recover key using command prompt. Okay, which is using the .pfx file. And then it's going to ask you to enter the new password, confirm the password. So type as shown. Then it's going to successfully create the paul.pfx file. Then we are going to go into the C drive, Windows System 32, and we should see Paul. And then you're going to right click it and you're going to copy. And you are going to open up C drive, make a folder called Paul Weston. You're going to paste the file, the .pfx certificate file there. Okay. Then you want to be able to share this folder, so you can share the folder. And so you can right click, go to properties, go to sharing tab, click advanced sharing button, so that way you can set the permission and share name. So type in Paul Weston as your share name, or it should give you that by default. And then click OK. Then in the task 3, you are going to go back to Windows 10, log in as Paul Weston if it's not logged in. So then open up File Explorer, and you're going to right click this PC and choose Map Network Drive, and you are going to mount that folder. So we are going to type this in. So what that does is going to mount the folder to that drive C. So once that's successful, you're going to right click the file and you're going to install PFX. Then it's going to give you the wizard. And for this part, we are just going to simply import our file from the mounted folder to Z drive. You're going to click next. That was shared. And so type in the password, then click next, and it has to match, otherwise it would deny. And in the next part here, what it does is it's going to allow you to set up here it's going to tie to the store. We're going to complete the wizard. We're going to click finish, and then we're going to click OK. Then we're going to go back to C drive, open up EF user, right click confidential memo text file that we tried earlier. We're going to click open. And at this point, since that key is now recovered and shared, then it should allow you to decrypt the file. Earlier you saw that it's access denied, so now it should allow you to open up the file. Okay, so you need that key to be able to decrypt. And then we want to go back to our server, enable our server auto login so that way you don't forget. Take a screenshot and then finish the assessment. So for the last part of Lab 12, you're just going to answer the questions. So go through it, read through it, because it gives you some details, and some of this is going to tie to our quiz. So that way you can see a little bit more on, what area of certificate, some of the things that, you worked on, some of the information that will be useful for your certification also tie into this assessment as well. So once you answer, you're going to click submit, and then for submit the report for screenshot. After that, we can click done as we completed all the tasks. And this concludes my Unit 12 lab video. I will release another lab video for Lab 13 later on. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you for watching.